I think that was the breaking point where I saw an opportunity to go out there and promote this technology. And I saw these other, very few providers were doing this exact thing. And I was excited by that.
Are there any lessons you learned along the way that you carried into whether it's Home Oxygen Company, Easy Sleep Club, and now Tactical Back Office from those early days?
Being able to take a lot of hits, and like we used to say in sales, you take a lemon and turn it into lemonade.
How did those experiences shape your understanding of what providers truly struggle with?
So I appreciated the fact that it was an opportunity for us to provide that customer service, what customers were looking for when nobody else was doing that at the time.
All right, we are live, and we have Todd Usher, founder of Tactical Back Office, on the Claim to Fame podcast. Todd, thanks for joining today. All right, we are live, and we have Todd Usher, founder of Tactical Back Office, on the Claim to Fame podcast. Todd, thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks again for inviting me.
Yep. Thanks for joining, Todd.
Like I always used to start off with the podcast here, we always say, who's Todd Usher and what does your business do and all your businesses do? A little bit of background would be great.
Sure. Well, we've been in the DME space since 2007. We opened a sleep lab in 2017. Tactical Back Office was really born in 2015-16, but formalized in 2019, and then Technical Call Center was formed and launched at MedTrade of 2024.
Awesome. That's exciting. So how'd you first get into healthcare in the DME space? You've obviously been in the space for a while. You have a lot of experience. We'd love to hear a little bit of background about how you got into it.
Sure. Well, I was kind of at a career lull at 23, 24 years old, and I got a lead from someone I knew to a driving position in 1996. So I started off with a local company here in the Central Valley of California, just as a delivery technician. And the reason I wanted that job, because this person connected me, was it was an outside job. And I was working in a cubicle in a basement of no less. So I really kind of wanted to get back out there. So it was enjoyable. The biggest thing that scared me at the time was, what the hell is a nebulizer? You know, it just sounded too Star Wars for me to understand. But after a couple of weeks on the job and working with the crew, I really enjoyed it. We had a good crew, and that's kind of where I started in the DME space.
That's awesome. What were you doing in the cubicle in the basement?
I was working for New Horizons Computer Learning Center doing cold calls to businesses for learning how to work Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and I hated it.
Yeah. Wayne and I both actually started cold calling early in our career, so we definitely understand what that's like, doing hundreds of calls in one day.
You can only be told no so many times. It's like dating. And you can only be told no so many times. You need an occasional yes in there.
Yeah,
right. Just belittled all day.
It's character building for sure. So I'm sure if your sales guys are complaining, Todd, you tell them you were cold calling in a basement. So what did the DME space look like back then when you first got into it?
Well, I was thinking there was, internet was brand new and everything was analog, even the cell phones and pagers at the time. I remember delivering K-tanks. We had to deliver 20 K-tanks to a facility once a week. And everybody hated that job because it took about an hour to offload all those K-tanks to that facility. So we were still delivering liquid oxygen. So we had one dedicated liquid oxygen driver, and he would do that 5 days a week. I remember the server going down at least once a month and everybody fretting because we needed to buy a new server. There was no cloud-based systems back then. So I think it was more hands-on than it is today, for sure, with patients. Patients would schedule an appointment with a respiratory therapist, and they would spend time with them and follow up with them, and everything was on the respiratory therapist to do that. So it was just an analog time, if you think of it that way. And it's not archaic by any stretch, but I think it was definitely old school.
Gotcha. Yeah, times have definitely changed. Would you say there was a breaking point or a point that actually pushed you to go from driver to launch out on your own, rather than working for someone else?
Well, I succeeded in that same company. I got promoted pretty quickly and was managing the Bay Area for a while. And then I jumped ship to a national, and I call it my 6-month tour of duty at a national, and got the heck out of there. And then I joined a manufacturer, and that's kind of really where I learned the business, was from the manufacturer side. But at some point, I was watching home fill and the non-delivery model take shape. Portable concentrators had just come to the market, and there was a lot of pushback on this new technology. And I was excited. I drank the Kool-Aid. I loved the new technology. So I think that was the breaking point where I saw an opportunity to go out there and promote this technology. And I saw these other, very few peppered throughout the countryside providers were doing this exact thing, and I was excited by that. So that was my breaking point. It was excitement for the new technology that had come to the market.
Are there any lessons you learned along the way that you carried into whether it's Home Oxygen Company, Easy Sleep Club, and now Tactical Back Office from those early days?
Well, I think the lessons I've taken is fortitude, being able to take a lot of hits, and you know it's like we used to say in sales, you take a lemon and turn it into lemonade. And I think having that ability and fine tuning that ability is crucial for me. I want to stay motivated. I don't want to be negative Nancy. I want to make sure that I'm positive in my approach to any business. And so there's a lot of lemons out there, but makes more lemonade if I decide to do that. So I think that for me has worked out wonderful because I don't stay negative too long when something hits. I just turn it around and turn it into something positive, and then we move forward with it.
How did those experiences shape your understanding of what providers truly struggle with?
I think having that firsthand knowledge, even back to when I started off as a tech in '96, knowing what patients want, being asked many times and having to tell them no many times. The opportunity for our DME was portable oxygen concentrators. Everybody else was telling them no. Everybody else was telling them that's not covered by insurance. Everybody else was telling them, well, that's cash only, when all of that was wrong. So I looked at it as an opportunity for me to go out there and say, yes, it is covered by insurance, even though not much. But if you combine that with a stationary concentrator, you can eke out a margin and make that available to people and tell them a different story. And we got to write on that for quite some time. So I appreciated the fact that it was an opportunity for us to provide that customer service, what customers were looking for when nobody else was doing that at the time on that specific product line.
And then I'm sure at some point that kind of led to starting TBO. Can you tell us kind of what that segue looked like, or what was TBO battle born for your own operation? Tell us a little bit about the origin of, I think what most people these days know you for is kind of being the face and founder of Tactical Back Office.
So it was born out of necessity. It was a requirement. The industry had been taking in cuts and reimbursement since the original to me anyways, 1/3 cut of oxygen in 1997. Every other year since then, they've been taking a percentage point away from everything to specific products to the whole DME space. And I feel that between that and the final big cut that occurred with the rollout in 2016, and at the same time, the state governments of California and New York were dramatically increasing the minimum wage, there was just no room to survive. They took away all our margin. And in the fact that the reimbursement reduction or compressed reimbursement on one side and the minimum wage hikes on the other side, how are we going to survive? So at that point, I had a connection in the Philippines, and that connection got together with somebody else that was working down there that started with us, and it proved to be a solution and an immediate solution. Not, like when they talk about non-delivery, they talk about how in the next 13 months, you're going to see our ROI, or the next 18 months, you're going to see your ROI by not having to do deliveries and save on gas and trucks and insurance and employees. I remember that I told that story many times. And with this new business model of staffing, our ROI is next month. I can find somebody and get them replaced and see the savings and see the output, not just the savings, but the production of what that person can do. So we started in 2016 with our first person. And within a month, we had drank that Kool-Aid and started looking for other positions that we could fill it with.
Tell us a little bit more about how this experience, I guess you have TBO now, for our followers and listeners that don't know TBO yet, can you just kind of tell us who you are, what you guys, who you serve, and kind of how you help DME solve a lot of the problems it sounded like you solved for yourself?
Absolutely. We solve staffing problems, and we're think of us as a staffing partnership. Technical back office provides staff. We don't provide a service. We don't provide solutions that we're going to solve your problems or your DSO or anything like that. We provide staff. You need staff. We need staff. We need people to answer the phone and process orders, and we provide that. So everything that we've done with our DME company, we provided and proved that we can do it. I'd say the single best hire we made that I recall was a bookkeeper. Our local bookkeeper, I got a little angst and left, and I hired a bookkeeper who was referred to me, and she didn't know anything about QuickBooks. And Friday, when I gave her the job offer, she was ready to start on Monday. And all weekend, she went through YouTube training videos to get herself trained on QuickBooks, and she hit the ground running on Monday. We didn't skip a beat. And that was an expensive bookkeeper that I had. So it showed me that it is not only possible, but we can work through these problems and use TBO as a solution for that. So every time somebody left, we just replaced them with a TBO, and now 95% of our company is staffed by TBO personnel. All of our companies are. So it's proven to be a good business model, especially in this compressed reimbursement environment that we live in.
I have to imagine it probably resonates some of these stories with your clients, you know, having lived through all of this and solved your own problems. So that's really awesome to hear.
It definitely helps, and it helps to relate to our clients.
Yeah.
We've been there. We're still there. We've not only
Yeah,
been
you're
there,
still there.
we're still there. You know, home health just took a 4% haircut. They eliminated all the COVID money about a year ago, January 2024. They reduced reimbursement back down. And so we're still being reduced in what we're devalued is what I would like to say. And so this is a good tool to go after that. And it's a staffing tool. We all need staffing. We all need people to run our businesses and to grow our businesses. And we use this as a tool to remain fully staffed. Most of the year, we are not understaffed anymore. We haven't been understaffed in years.
Yeah, I guess I kind of like the way that you segued into it, like because turnover is just notoriously an issue in DME. It's a tough business, right? It's not that glamorous, but I like how you kind of, someone left, you just plug TBO in. Someone left, you just plug TBO in. Do you see your clients now kind of using that same way to scale into this versus saying,
Absolutely.
hey,
I could tell you about the approximate date they drank the Kool-Aid, because they start off with 1, 2, or 3 people,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden a month later they've got 10. It's like,
Yep.
oh, someone drank the Kool-Aid last month. You know? It's fun, it's funny, but it's great because, you know, I've been in this industry for a while now, and it's fun to create these partnerships and show them the success that we've had. And having an HME DME company, we've lived it and we understand it, and we don't push it. They'll come to their own realization when they understand it's just not the cost savings.
Mhm.
The number one compliment we get is the fact that they show up on time and they work. Nope, that's the compliment. Cost savings is a distant third or fourth compliment. And that was my number one
Interesting.
priority for starting the company, is to
Yep.
deal with compressed reimbursement. But people are complimenting us the fact that they show up. That's a big hurdle in this environment that we live in.
It's actually coming to work and doing the job.
Yeah, you get it because you're on the provider side itself, so you can actually see it versus maybe there might be other companies that are not actually living it or have lived it, and you actually truly understand the problems or some of the issues that people might be having as a provider themselves. I did have a question about offshoring. So when it comes to offshoring, offshore staffing is often misunderstood. What would you say is a big misconception that you face about it?
The single biggest misconception is that we are a outsourcing company or a business process outsourcing or a service, and we are not. No, no, and no. At our core, we are a staffing agency. We're a staffing partner because we want to give you a constant flow of staffing as you grow, as you shrink. You can return them as you shrink. If you have a project, you're going from your competitive EMR to Nico Health and you need data entry for a month or two, we can provide that. Anything that's happening in that regard, we're a staffing agency. So other companies out there will provide a service like a billing company. They'll say, we're going to get your DSO down to this. We're going to work this many orders per day. You're going to have this, and you're going to have a single point person that you're going to deal with on a monthly basis. You're going to meet with. And we've done that with our HME DME, and it's good and it has its place, but that's not who we are. We're a staffing agency. So if you currently handle your billing, if you currently handle these things on the inside and you're not farming it out to a service or outsourcing it, then TVO can provide you the staff to handle that indoors, in-house.
That's great. And I know obviously you're running multiple businesses simultaneously. How do you prioritize what business gets what time from you, and how do you manage the whole day to day? It can't be easy.
Whoever's yelling the loudest, right?
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
I go where the business takes us, and sometimes I feel like a firefighter, and that's part of the excitement of it. But really, it's focusing on what needs to be done next to either grow the businesses or address it. I have managers running each of the companies, so I don't need to worry about day-to-day operations. I just need to worry about overall strength of what our promise is to our clients and the direction in which we're heading, and provide that direction to our leadership team so they can execute on it.
Right on. And like we spoke about, obviously you have tactical back office, but you also have the tactical call center. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what that side of the business does?
Absolutely. Now that's the service company. That's the true outsourcing. So it's a contact center or call center, depending on what the needs of the client are. So we can handle after hours calls 24/7, 365 days a year, during lunch breaks when folks are closed down. And it's just not for HME DME, it's across the healthcare continuum that we're providing these services to. And a lot of folks will have campaigns in which they need to field through and qualify quality leads. They don't have the in-house personnel to do it, so they'll hire us to go in there, and then we can forward those quality leads based on the criteria that they set forth over to them, and they can handle the referral from that point. But that's truly an outsourced service that we provide. It is just a call center or contact center that handles that.
We saw you mention the term predictable performance. What does that mean to you in the context of a staffing agency, as well as, the context of running your call center as well?
So the call center, predictable is the fact that we're going to pick up the phone in X amount of time. We're going to take care of the issue that's been raised. We have a mechanism to get a hold of the local company if we need to, if something's happening that we haven't been able to or trained on how to handle. Primarily the key metrics of, we know what to do when the phone rings. We know how to handle the call. A lot of clients will give us access to their operating system to determine if it's even their patient or not. So that's a service that we provide. But it's those indicators that we've been promising our clients that we'll answer the phone. It won't go to a voicemail. It won't go to a phone tree or anything like that. It's a live call, and it is handled. And we don't spend all day on the phone. So we want to make sure we have those KPIs in front of us, that we're handling these calls and moving on to the next call. On the staffing partner side, we've taken great investments into training our folks. And that is the key differentiator between us and any of our brand X competitors. We spend up to 16 weeks in training, and that is unheard of in healthcare.
Wow.
It's really unheard of in HME DME space. But from the time they get hired, we're vetting them for that entire time, making sure they're not falling asleep, making sure they're getting the content, making sure they're working, showing up on time. And then we identify, are they more inclined to be in a biller or intake or operator, customer service? How are their English skills? So we want to make sure that we're making that promise and predictable environment that the provider is going to need. And no matter who you are in healthcare, a physician office or chiropractic, dentistry, health, psychiatric health, HME, DME, they're going to get a TVO team member that's been trained on their EMR in a live fire environment. When I say live fire, meaning the reason we have other healthcare businesses, so we can, during training, put them in that environment so they're dealing with real patients, real physicians, real medical assistants, real attitudes, They get a feel for the fast-paced environment, because it is a fast-paced environment compared to what they're used to in the Philippines. So we want to make sure they're exposed to that prior to placing them with a client. So that's our promise to the client, is you're going to get somebody who's been through training last up to 16 weeks. So they're kind of familiar with it. When they walk in, they know what they're doing. It's not just that one job function we're training on. We're giving them a global view of what they're stepping into, and we're giving them an opportunity to succeed and progress. So we hope that our clients will promote them to a lead or a supervisor. We're hoping our clients will say, well, you're doing great over here, but you've got some good skills. We're going to move you over here to handle this problem. You can use them however you see fit. We don't want them to be stuck in one position. We want them to have an opportunity and grow with that company or that client.
Gotcha. That just made me think. So after the 16 weeks, how much, or I should say, what is the expectation of what you need to train them versus maybe some nuances of that specific businesses and what they're expecting from the person that you guys staffed?
So
Or
we
is it like kind
have-
of like a happy marriage? Like you're providing the foundation, they might provide color around specific processes and workflows. Is that how it typically works?
So we'll have clients that will share with us their training material. We'll file it and hold it for them when they need to onboard a new TPO.
Ah, gotcha.
So we'll say, we promise people we'll get them about 80% of the way trained. So the client's responsible for about 20% of the training. Some clients say, here's my stuff, you deal with it, and we grab it. Sure, we'll take care of it. So instead of 80%, now we're going to say closer to 90, 95% trained by the time they onboard. Because there's certain, like you say, nuances in their business that we're not quite familiar with. It's the culture, it's the business model, however they handle credit cards on file, that type of thing. Give that all to us. We'll handle that training for you. So that way, when you grow and onboard and replace people or whatever you're doing with TBO, then we're going to be able to better prepare those candidates for your specific business.
Understood. No, that's super helpful. I'm sure that's helpful. I'm sure it's a common question that people have when they come into, or if they're new to your world and kind of before they drink the Kool-Aid, probably some questions that they have, right?
Absolutely.
Where do you see TBO and tactical call center in the next 5 years? What's the future look like for you and kind of the companies that you're running?
Well, the wind's been on our back the past few years, and I hope it continues to blow, because it's not only fun helping these clients right-size their business to the economic model that we're living under, but I foresee us continuing to grow. And TCC's really grabbed traction over the last few months, and I feel that both TDO and TCC have a lot to offer. We're not hearing anything in the media about the employment rate out there changing dramatically, meaning that companies are still have a lot of jobs open out there,
Yeah.
a lot of unfulfilled jobs. That continues to be an issue in even the trade magazines in our industry, where it is hard to find qualified personnel for these jobs. And that's where TBO can come in and fulfill those jobs virtually and permanently, hopefully, I say hopefully, permanently resolve their staffing issues.
Yep.
And we have proof positive we've done it ourselves. So we're not just making that promise based on theory, we're making that promise based on reality of what we've seen with our other companies. We started companies under this model of using TBO staff and have been successful at it. So we don't have to hire local talent to make that work. We can hire virtual talent to come in and run the whole business off of that model.
Todd, I know we spoke about this prior to recording. I know you have an interesting stance on AI.
Yeah. Well, what Tactical Back Office likes to tell its clients is, we have actual intelligence. We haven't deployed much artificial intelligence. And the actual intelligence is human beings working with our patients, working with handling those needs that they have, whatever those needs are. What I like about actual intelligence is the fact that somebody can be moved from one department to another. With AI, artificial intelligence, it's doing that one job function every day. And it's expensive, right? It's like I paid 35 cents a minute for cell phones in the late 80s. I remember those bills because all my friends would say, hey, can I use your cell phone? I said, no, pay me 35 cents and you can use it. It was expensive, right? Artificial intelligence is the same way. We've had we've worked with a few companies and gotten quotes from them, and it's pretty spendy. Probably too expensive for HME, DME blood, unless you're a national or public company. I'm sure it will work out fine. But for the everyday small business or medium-sized business, this works out better for us right now. Artificial intelligence will get there someday, and you still have to manage artificial intelligence to some degree, where actual intelligence, you're training them on what needs to be done. You can gauge their error rate, you can gauge their productivity, and you can reward them and move them on to other departments as you see fit. So we're a big believer in actual intelligence right now, but artificial intelligence has its place. It's maturing, in my opinion.
I love it. Question for you. I think one last question before we move on to rapid fire. What advice would you give to someone who's building in healthcare right now? Maybe someone who's overwhelmed by regulations or staffing challenges or margins.
I had our old payroll company, our first payroll company. She moved from California to, I think, Georgia. She moved to Georgia, and she wanted to open up an HME DME. She called us and says, hey, I was thinking about doing this. The numbers are good, aging population, and all these other things. Says, what do you think I should do? I says, you know what you should do? You should open up a car wash. You get paid immediately. You have no GSO. There's no billing. It's cash only, and it's automated anymore. And that's true, and it's easier. But physicians or physical therapists or people who have been in the industry for a while that may spin off and try to do their own thing, this is all they know. And that's been my story. My biggest suggestion, or let me scratch that. My suggestion to them would be to have fortitude, grow thick skin. It's not easy. It's tough. I feel like the Borg out of Star Trek. We've been assimilated into this business. There's no way I can get out of it now. I'm done. And that's how I felt. And when I was coming of age in this industry in the early 2000s, it was a good job, good paying job. The one thing about our industry is it'll always be here, and we don't really react to the ebbs and flows of the economy. People still get sick. People still need equipment. It doesn't matter what's happening on Wall Street. That's been my experience. And so it's a good career to be in, but it takes a thick skin to be here.
It's definitely not, healthcare is definitely not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
That
A
seems
lot
to
of
be the
moving
common
parts,
thread.
a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
Right on. Wayne, do you want to try the rapid fires this time?
Yeah. Are you ready, Todd? We'll jump into our rapid fire section. It's a fun kind of way to like to close these out. So
Okay.
no more brain busters.
Sounds good.
All right, let's go. Pizza for breakfast or cereal for dinner?
Oh, pizza for breakfast for sure.
Teleport anywhere or time travel once a year?
Time travel once a year, and I even have a DeLorean.
That's awesome. I was going to say maybe teleport to the Philippines, but you sound like you got your people under control over there. So did they show up, right? Let's see. Unlimited free flights or unlimited free gas?
Or limited free flights.
Yeah, that one
That's
was
an easy one.
Let's see here.
And the reason I say that is because we're moving over to an EV fleet. So I hopefully won't have a gas bill in about a year.
Oh, there you
I
go.
love that. For the oxygen company?
Yeah.
Nice. Have a pause button or a rewind button for life?
Say that one more time.
Have a pause button or a rewind button for life?
Oh, pause button for sure.
Let's see here. One or two more. Would you rather get stuck in traffic forever or always have slow internet?
Those are good options. Can I call a friend? Oh man.
That's a tough one, actually.
Traffic, I've been stuck in traffic and that's it. You're done. At least with internet, I can reboot my router. So I'll say slow internet.
All right, we'll close it out with that one.
All right.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thanks so much for coming on. If anyone wants to contact you or reach out to any of your businesses, what's the best way for them to find you?
I go to our website, www.tacticalbackoffice.com or tacticalcallcenter.com. And there's a contact form there. Simply reach out and any of our folks should be able to help you, or they can reach out to me directly. I'd love to talk to them.
That's great. Well, Todd, thanks so much. This was a really fun podcast. We had a great time, and hopefully we can have you back.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to it.
Thanks again, Todd.
All right.
Appreciate the time today.
Take care.